Feel like we can get started. Should we wait a little bit more?
We can go
Wait.
ahead and go, and then people will hop on. And
Okay. All right. Well, I'm Erynne Wilson from West Georgia, and I'm going to give a little bit about my background and then take over to Mallory. And then we're just going to feed off each other about the importance of a mom business in this industry with what do we do? What's our schedule look like? How are we managing it with juggling being the mom, family time, and doing this? And all the most important thing is having fun. So, January last year, I started full time and I left hygiene. So, I was there 12 years, enjoyed being a hygienist, but the work environment was not what it needed to be. So, I was just ready to leave. It was a season of change. And that led me to Mike, where I jumped, got my license, and didn't look back. I have enjoyed every bit of it. Most importantly, since doing this job, I've never missed a school event with Walker. He's only in pre K, but that is the most important thing. Where my job prior, I could never take off. The family trips were only when she took off. So your personal life didn't exist with the work environment. So that has been the best thing is making my schedule around Walker's events and then soon Renly, my 2 year old, once she gets of age. So that looking back, no matter what industry you're in or what you're doing, there's always going to be ups and downs. There's not a perfect job out there. There's not one that doesn't have just pros and one's just cons. So you've got to find a balance no matter what you do. And for success and to make it successful in this job, you've got to stay consistent. And looking back last year, staying consistent with plugging into the system and focusing on my upline and joining these calls is what led me to where I am now. Um, so I'm going to leave it at that, switch to Mallory, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Erin's really humble too, but like Erynne has had a lot of success because of what she just said, of just like being consistent and knowing that like she left her job and she committed to this, and she knew what she wanted, and she committed to that. And you'll notice we'll probably say it over and over again throughout the length of this call, of just committing and just being consistent. But Erin's so humble, but you know, she's had a lot of success, and a lot of it can be attributed to just her work ethic and her commitment level and things like that. So my story is a little bit different. I was a teacher by trade, I guess, or I am a teacher by trade. And then I went teacher turned stay at home mom. We live in a really small community. And so I was teaching in a rural district. And I don't know how much y'all know about teacher salaries, but they don't pay a lot. So I was making about $2,300 a month. And and then I had my second little one, and I decided, with childcare costs, that wasn't going to be worth me going back to work for all the stress. And just like Erynne, like making sub plans, only having so many days of paid time off, and then if you have to go beyond that, which you can't control how many days in a year that your kids are sick, um, then you take a pay cut, or just the stress of being a mom and working full time and having that like rigid schedule. I that was stressing me out. So I put in my resignation and was a stay-at-home mom, and things were tight for us, very tight. We were living off one income. And so I think I was just very open. And then, this was just the Lord just kind of plopped this into Nick's life, which then, you know, we stayed really good touch with Nick, or we did even when we weren't working together. And Nick was telling my husband about it, and then my husband told me about it. And I think just because I was open, the Lord just kind of led me into it. And so really that's how I got started. I just was open, just like Erynne. I mean, she wasn't looking to get into insurance, nor was I. We were just open, and had that like fire in us of, okay, being a mom, knowing, okay, can this allow some flexibility with working, but, you know, being able to not miss a school event and take off work if needed, if my kid's sick and I don't have to like report to somebody about it. So that's really kind of where we both started. Do you want to talk about kind of what your first initial goal was, Erynne, for like when you got started?
Yeah, so my first goal was sell a policy. I was terrified. But the goal to make the income I was originally making, that was my set goal, and working less. And then the first month, I started January 17th full time. So like part time, I made more than my whole monthly income. So that was where I was like, okay, I know I'm on the right step. And then from there, each month just got better. And the the time that I'm doing it is 3, 4 days a week because I have my Friday, Saturday, Sundays were a 3-day weekend with the kids. Because when they start kindergarten, then I'm going to be working more. But being able to keep them at home more on Fridays, that's just my goal of I won't get that time back. And that's I'm not going to sacrifice that for work. So the goal was met and overcame within, the first full month. And I just keep going at it and keep staying consistent and enjoying it. So that was my goal. What about yours, Mallory?
Yes, same. I mean, I just set a goal. Okay, if I can make more than what I was making teaching, which wasn't much, so I knew that was a very reasonable goal.
Mhm.
Um, then I'm sticking with it. But I think too, like the biggest thing with being a mom and doing this, and I think there's probably lots of women on here, and there's probably lots of men and men. I don't want to exclude y'all. Let's see who all is on here, but just being a parent, I guess. Yeah, there's
Yes,
lots
a
of men on
parent.
here. Being a parent, you can either like use that as your excuse as to like why this maybe wouldn't work for you, or like your reason why, like your reason to keep pushing. And I think for me and Erynne, we have used it as our reason why to keep pushing because yeah, it is it's hard. I mean, it there are pluses and minuses of every industry, but like we've used being a parent, being a mom, and kind of just both of us are kind of not the default parent, but it is different being a mom than it is being a
Mom
dad.
is a full time, nothing against the dad. It's just God put
Yeah.
that in us, like our instincts. It's just how a mom is wired. So it's not being anything outside of it. And
Yeah.
I was
And
going to play like when you were saying about this is hard, being realistic, anything can be hard. Anything, it all is how you want to put your mind and your perspective. So when we come on and talk, or you hear other people talk, it sounds so easy and good. But think about anybody with a business. I'm watching my husband build his business. The success. Nobody sees the work that gets put in. All you see is a success. The only way to get a success is the up and down challenges, facing each day of how it comes and not giving up. The word that we're going to say over and over, you just got to put in your mental mind, it's a numbers game and it's consistent. If you've got those two things down, you can make it. You can do anything. But if you're not staying consistent and you just give up at the easiest thing, that's where people fall short and you don't see the success. So just
mhm,
stay active.
mhm. Yeah, and even like on the weeks, that it's hard or your kids are sick or you had just a terrible week, like just choosing that next week or that next day to like recenter back to what did I commit to doing? Like what am I supposed to be doing? Treating it like a job um is really the biggest and most important thing. And I think too, like when you have your feet were held to the fire because you left your job, my feet were held to the fire because I put my kids in childcare so that I could do this. So having that
Yes.
added pressure, and I know there's some other parents on here that can identify with that. And if you don't have kids, then find another way to put pressure on yourself aside from, just, or maybe if your kids are older or whatever, but something to apply enough pressure to push you in the right direction. I think we were kind of thrown into it just because our circumstances, like I had to, like we had to, our kids were in childcare. Erynne left her job, like go out there and get it done.
Mm-hmm. Good,
But
good.
just, yeah, choosing to stay consistent and, um, like just not making it an option,
Proactive.
really.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I'll
Yeah.
kind of go with like the way I've set my schedule up, and then you can talk about yours because everybody's going to do this business different. It's going to have to be what works for you. Now, my Mondays are dial days. I work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, and I jam pack those days out. Fridays, I have the kids. That's an overflow day of more phone calls, emails, which I enjoy because I want to stay busy. But when I have my dial days and I'm on my planner, and anybody in this business can say, if you don't write on your schedule or you don't hold yourself accountable, like
Mhm.
I love Hutch, he'll say, the laziest person on a dial day would rather go clean the dishes. It's because you just want to do anything but what you need to do. My motivation to do it is I just don't think about it. I do it. If I overthink
Mhm.
about it, I pause, and then that leaves room for doubt and fear. And then I just can't make a dial. So you've got to see how it works for you, where overcoming your struggles. The very beginning, dialing suck. Now, I mean, no, they're not fun. I mean, but I make it fun. I make it what I want it to be. So whatever's fearful, door knocking or the dials, you've got to get that focus off the fear and the doubt and just focus on the task so that you don't let that devil in your mind of putting that doubt more and then holding you back. Because that's usually people starting in the beginning. That's the hardest thing is the dial day.
Yeah, that's the most miserable part. Or the dials.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that's a great way to put it is just don't think about it and just do it. And just know like that's what you have to do. Like that's just what we have to do. And in every job there's things that you have to do that you don't love doing, but that's just what we have to do. Like I think is it Mike that has the bracelet that says dial the damn leads? Doesn't Mike have that bracelet? It says
I don't know, does
I think he does. I think it's
someone
Mike. But yeah, I mean, like just slapping yourself on the wrist and dial the leads. And Erynne has mentioned this too of just like finding whatever works for your situation and for your family. And I think that's the biggest thing is like everyone's business is going to look a little bit different. And so like whatever your dial day is, like take advantage of that dial day and use it for good, not for laziness and TikTok and all the other things. Um, but like everyone's schedule is going to look different, and if you are a parent, like you have to figure out for your family, what does that dial day look like, or when is that going to happen? When am I going to dial? When am I going to run appointments? Because it's going to be different from person to person, family to family. I know that there's people that are wanting to do this full time, and there's people that want to do this part time or super part time. Um, People that have kids and people that have don't, and people that don't. But figuring out what that schedule is going to look like and just like sticking to it. And Erynne said you run Monday through Thursday and then Fridays overflow, right? But that's kind of how I do it too.
Mhm.
But I started out slow. I started out uh, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, um, basically 8:30 to 2:30. That was my time, and that's how I started and had my first year was just 3 days a week, super part time. So, um, like let that encourage you if that's you out there. Maybe you just are really limited on time. Like just whatever time that you do have, be a good steward of your business in that chunk that you have. Like even if it's 6 hours a week, like, well, okay, let's make that work. And then the more that you grow your business, then maybe the more flexibility you'll have. But um, we each have a similar story, but like our circumstances are different. So our schedules will look different, but you have to kind of find that balance of what works right for your family. It took me a lot of time. Like it's taken me over 2 years to figure out for me and my husband what is going to work. And obviously, we both have to make sacrifices, but it's been just figuring out kind of what's going to work for our family. And I'm sure Erynne can attest to this too of, where's kind of that sweet spot, and it's give and take, but it's not copy and paste. Like no two businesses, no two schedules, no two agents are going to, oh, well, that's what Erynne does. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Or that's what, like you have to do what's going to work for you and your family and your children. Cause ultimately that's like, we're called there first. Like no one else can be your kid's mom. No one else can be your kid. You know what I mean? So you have to find that and
Mhm.
just be a good steward of that chunk of time that you have. I'm trying to make sure we're talking about
I
all
was
the
going to
things.
say, yeah, go in our little, yeah. And I was going to say all about the upline and plugging in. So you've got your schedule, you're going to be consistent with it. Well, if you don't ask questions, you don't reach out, you don't fall on your face, you don't learn from it, you're not going to grow. So stay consistent with your upline. If something's not working that they put out or you thought you wanted to do, explain and be very open about it, because what doesn't work, what works for Mike, because I'm very tight, like close with that. I call me, God bless him, almost every day still. A full year in, talk to him every day still. What
Mm-hmm.
he does, I'm not going to do every time. So you've got to know, well, okay, Mike, that is great, but what about this? And then we talk about it, we work on it. If you don't have those conversations, nobody's going to know how to help you. So to help yourself, please don't hesitate. Dial somebody, meet people, group text. I mean, just be very involved in that. And then also the most important thing is a bad day, call somebody. Thank God for Mallory. Thank God for Rachel. Our bad days, emotionally, for life outside of work, during work, whatever it is, communicate, because when you have this support that we as moms in this business can relate very on key with each other, where you're not feeling you're explaining to someone that has no clue what you're talking about. It's very important to have those friendships in this business, I believe, because that's more support mentally for friendship side and work side. And I'll be honest, I don't think you'll find any of that support anywhere else except this group, this agency, this job. I'd rather have ups and downs and have to rewrite with a crazy client than work for a doctor that I can't get rid of. I can get rid of this client, but your boss, your corporate, the hours, you can't change that. The salary, your top pay, you can't change any of that. Yeah, my
Mm-hmm.
day's not going accordingly, but I have control of that. I just can't let my emotions and those fears stop me. You just have to communicate and talk it out and work through it. And it's those cons and the down days do not outweigh our pros and the great ability of this business for your family, your kids, financially, the fun in it. So just be in communication. If I hope to God I've made sense of all that, because I know that was a lot. But
Yeah, yes.
that's very important.
Staying close to just the campfire to stay warm, and even if
Mhm.
you're cold as ice, if you can just creep a little closer, and call I literally have, if you see my favorites in my phone, I've got my whole immediate family and then Nick is at the bottom. And I call him poor man nonstop because I need his someone's laughing at it. Because I need to hear from him. I need to pick his brain about things. And thank goodness, like Erynne said, for Rachel and Erynne and all, just all these wonderful people. Just it really helps to stay close to the campfire. Um,
Mhm.
so what are some other things they wanted us to talk? Being okay, walk me through like your generic schedule from Monday to Thursday. Like how do you work your week?
Like the hours,
Yeah, like what does each day kind of generically look
what
like?
it would look like. So usually start Mondays from 9 till about 4:30. and it's all about emails, follow-ups, and dial day. I do not stop my dials until I know my Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday schedule is full. I That's my priority, is making sure those 3 days are fully booked. That's the top priority. And you want to prioritize your to-do list because a lot can be going on. So my week is nothing without my schedules, my appointments. So that's a Monday, is I will not stop until dials are completed. Tuesdays, Wednesday, Thursdays, I usually run appointments from 9 till about 4:30. Um, one day a week, sometimes two. I'll have to depend on what Jonathan's schedule is with the kids and who's picking them up, which thank God he picks them up a lot, because I'm that person that, well, I don't get home until 5 or 5:45. Okay, good, I'll do it. Where I'll extend my day because I want 3 days. I don't want to be running 5-day appointments. So then I'll communicate with my husband to see, okay, Wednesday's my longest day. Will you be able to get the kids? So that's where open communication is with him. Or if he has a late night, I have to have my day shortened. I'm trying to be more efficient with my appointments being cut off around 4:30, especially T-ball starting for Walker. Um, but I know I'll have at least one day that I'm running till about 6:30 the latest. So that's the same rate. Yeah, each week.
I think that's a good spot to be at, especially if you are a parent. Being a little bit realistic and knowing that, hey, you're probably going to have like one evening throughout the week that you are working late. Would you say like
Hmm.
one, maybe two, but for sure one? And you can just kind of make that decision. I'm going to just do one evening. That's normally pizza night for our family, frozen pizza night, because it's something easy, but I think, that was she talked about some really important things of just like having that open communication with your spouse of like, hey, this is what my schedule is going to look like for the week. I've got to pick up kids, can you, my dishwasher, can you pick up the kids, or can you, making sure that there's a plan. I know Erynne like lives and breathes by her calendar, and I'm the same exact way. I don't know if I can even pull it up, but I know Erynne's probably got her big. Erynne's is written. I'm digital, so we're
Y'all,
different in that way.
if y'all think your life's crazy, like this, I'm an old school. Like if Devon's on here, I'm trying to learn to be. I don't even know if you can see all this. Do you see this? I'm
Uh-huh.
Post-it notes, highlighters, stickers. If it's not on here, it's not going to happen. So writing it
That's me, but
down,
I'm
check
digital.
it out. Yeah. I need to be more digital. I'm
No,
so old school.
you do what works. You do what works for you. I'm digital so I can share it with my husband. That's the only reason I do that. Um, and then um what about goals? Like how have your goals adjusted being a mom, like um throughout the course of you being in this industry? Like how have your thermostat on your goals, how has that changed being a mom?
So I want to do way more like recruiting and working more and like seeing more clients. And before I lose this train of thought, I know averagely we want to sit with I have like at least 20 appointments a week. Shoot for that. But to be honest, y'all, my goal, or my work schedule 3 days, I may schedule 15. I mean, the most I can get y'all in 3 days is, let's say, 18. So on average, I'm between 13 and 18 appointments in 3 days. Like I've never gotten to 20. And I'm okay with that because I have to be, because that's my schedule. I don't work 4 days. If I did, I'd probably be 30. But you have to remind yourself, give yourself grace, kind of like with Mallory starting her 8:30 to 2:30. Like give yourself grace. And Rachel always preaches that. You're not you may not start first 3 or 4 months seeing perfect rainbows and sunshines, but staying consistent and finding out what works for you, it's going to come. So going back to goals, I'm nowhere near I want with my goals because my top goal is being a full-time mom the most I can presently outside of work. So, right now, to be honest, I'm just staying consistent with my schedule, making the most of that, and trying to add in recruiting more on top of that. But I feel like I have very limited time to meet the goals that I wanted in the beginning. So I'm not going to reach what I want because I'm not going to I don't have time to put in extra 2 days a week because I'm choosing family time right now. As they get older, things will
Hmm.
change. So my goal to stay consistent right now is focusing on what I'm doing now and adding a little here and a little there and learning to give myself grace so I won't burn out because I put too much stress on myself last year. Like if I could go back, I would try to be more realistic and slow down pace of finding what works realistically for me instead of saying I'm just going to do all of this when I can't or my cup will be empty.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I want to know, like, same with you, Mallory, like, what would you do differently last year and what are your goals? And then have they changed from where you started the beginning of the business or even the beginning of this year? And here we are in March.
Yeah. My goals at the beginning were low, really low.
That's
I
not a
had to
bad
be
thing.
it's not. And here's the thing. I am a perfectionist and I don't like losing and I'm a little bit of a harm avoider. And so I don't like setting not necessarily unrealistic goals, but I don't like setting goals that I may not hit. And I had to kind of let go of that and just remember I'm a mom and I don't really know what the Lord's going to throw in my path as I'm doing this, but I can be consistent. Ultimately my goal was to exceed $2,300 a month. That was my goal. I've done that. Check the mark. Um, Last year, my goal was to double what I made the first year, which I did that. And really that's my goal this year as well. But at the same time, like, not that it's not that you have to just like be okay with not hitting your goals, but it is a little bit different. Like when you are a parent, I can't worship my goals. I can't die for my goals. I can't
They can't
sacrifice
come
my
first.
family.
Mhm.
No. So I can work my hiney off. I can be consistent. I can do my doggone hardest work. And that's all I can control. And so I think, like Erynne said, just not being too hard on myself, being, a good steward of my schedule, a good steward of the opportunity, being consistent. Just knowing like I've worked hard. I hate getting to the end of the week and feeling like, oh, I was really distracted this week, or, oh, I've let my emotions get the best of me this week, or I was fixated on things that I shouldn't have been, I was too worried about X, Y, and Z rather than kind of recentering and just being like, here's what I can control. Here's what I'm going to work on. So I guess I kind of skirted around your question, but
No, I think yeah.
I mean,
It's just
just,
have a goal and be motivated by it and shoot for it, but don't spend your day of half-assing. That's what you
mhm,
like. And I think I'm gonna have to kind of not dumb it down, but be really realistic. Like Mallory's personality, my personality, we're very self-driven, very motivated, and hard on ourselves. So we're having to find our way to give ourselves grace, or we as a mom and working put too much pressure on ourselves. Where some people need a kick in the butt to be motivated, need to be pushed, need to be driven, need to be told what to do. So you have to ask yourself an honest question. And when you go to the view, you learn so much about your perspective in life, how you talk to yourself, the thoughts that go through yourself, because you can lie to yourself saying, turning something in to what's really an excuse of believing yourself of why you just kind of half-assed did something. You really need to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am self-motivated. I do put the work in. I bust my butt with no break except to pee and eat from, 9 to 4, where I put those hours in for a hard day instead of, in and out. So you've got to really know, I guess, your your foundation of growth. Because if you're not honest with yourself and then those excuses come in, you're just not going to be successful. So everybody can do it. You just have to figure out what motivates you. So then on the other end, if you're very self-motivated and driven, you've got to give yourself grace so you don't burn out on that end as well. Like there's two
Mhm.
ends to this. You don't want to overdo and then you can't underdo. So you just got to find a balance with what works for you. But you have to be a driven, motivated person to, if you can't find an answer or you don't know an answer, if you don't ask like earlier with your upline or talk about it or want to make it work, it's not going to come to you. It's not, you just can't, it's not going to fall in your lap. So you've got to do the work no matter what it is to get that answer or to be successful.
Yeah, and just continue to push and stay disciplined. That's the biggest thing.
Disciplined.
Even yeah.
Disciplined
Um,
is the word.
mhm. I remember hearing something about how like we live in such an Amazon Prime society. And while this this is the coolest business ever because it our commissions are kind of like Amazon Prime. You make a sale and they come quick, but that's not the case for everybody. So just having that perspective of like this you might have a little bit of a slow cooker process, and that's kind of how it was for me. Like I started out a little more slow. Um, so just staying, like she said, staying consistent and committed and just working your hardest. Um,
Do we, don't want to interrupt. Do we want to act like anybody have questions right now? So make sure, like,
oh yeah.
yeah, I want to make sure we're answering
Oh,
what people are thinking.
okay. Moms are rock stars, no doubt. Thanks, Helgeson. Um, how do you make dials fun for you? Love this thought, she said. How do you make dials
You want to
fun?
answer that and then I will?
Oh, I don't really make dials fun for me. I just know I have to do it. I it's just what you have to do. Normally I'll give myself some sort of motivation, like you got to make this many or you got to do this much, and then you can have a snack or something. I mean, I, that's probably not the answer that you wanted, but you just, it's just one of those absolutes. When I taught school, I had to lesson plan to teach my kids. I mean, you have to dial to be able to make the sales. So I guess I don't know.
You see,
How do you make it fun?
I guess I don't want to make it easier. Maybe it's not fun and it may be exhausting, but the way I do it is instead of looking at the script and dialing, I'm so zoned in and focused, I'm dreading it. So I distract myself. So I'm like doing emails, um, highlighting my planner, knocking off to-do list. I'm doing something while dialing, organizing my Excel sheet, putting things in. So that keeps my mind busy. So when they're answering, I already know what to say so busy, like so easily that I'm not just like, oh my God, they're not going to answer. They're already going to say no. They're going to say we already have it taken care of. I don't have any of that going through my head where the very beginning when I was so new, that's all I thought. And I was just so scared that they could hear that in my voice. So the way I had to do that to get out of my head and not think about it is distract myself. So when I'm busy and they answer, I'm like, oh God, what's the name? And then I go right into it without any free doubt in my mind. So that's what I have to do to make it easier.
Okay, that's better. That is much better.
Um,
Hi Earl. He being Marcusetta. Yes. The he that we have been talking about at
sorry.
the U.
Yes.
No, yeah, is Marcusetta, who is the top trainer in the entire world when it comes to sales and team building. I mean, hands down, he's just the best. He's the best. He's the best communicator. The way that he can articulate a point and communicate something is,
Out of this world.
yes, you're just like, how did you just describe that so eloquently? Like it blows my mind. So
I
yes,
want to go
Marcusetta.
back on, yeah, with him. So Jonathan, my husband, like the first event he went to was the View in Denver last year. in his own business. He was crying at this event, laughing at this event. He grew as a person with his business, but most importantly, supporting and what our business had to offer. So I don't know how to explain it more than, even though my husband does nothing with insurance, he took so much home that helped support me on my down days and to build and grow on his. And just if you ever got a chance just to talk to Mark outside of being on stage, just being in his present and his vibe of energy and positivity and just so humbling, you learn so much from his view of life that it just puts in perspective of life is so short, make the most of it. God first, which is my favorite, family, fun, work. It's just the best all tied into one thing that he puts in place.
Hmm. Yeah, that's such a good testimony of the event too, that even though Jonathan didn't work in insurance, that he had so many nuggets to bring home. Um,
Yes.
Anonymous attendee put, as someone who is new to this, what does a normal dial sound like? I would say it really is just, sorry, y'all. It's just going to depend on what kind of a lead you're dialing. Um, but you should have, there's several different scripts depending on what type of dial. And so I don't want to go too far down like that rabbit trail just because there's so many different directions that you can go depending on if you're doing a virtual lead or a direct mail lead. So if you want to reach out to like one of us more specifically, we can for sure give you some direction. And there's lots of training videos too on that. Um, Jessica says,
That's
with the
good.
recent change in leads, how many leads are y'all getting each week to fill your schedule and what kind? Erynne, you want to go first?
Yeah, so I am in that transition, Jessica. I am finishing up with my current GMR that was stopped and switched to a whole different location because of they were being $90 leads. So I'm letting that GMR build up for good old Alabama. I'll be going to across the line. But also I am starting the virtual leads, which I've been leaning on Mallory in our upline, like with Jonathan, his I don't know if you may watch his Zoom about virtual leads. I'm wanting to gain that part because that's going to be, I feel like, way more beneficial for being a stay at home mom, being home, but being a mom. So I'm very excited for that transition for learning vertical leads, which I have not gotten to yet. What about you, Mallory?
Yeah, I finished that transition from direct mail, kind of slowly moved into virtual. So I'm 100% virtual now. I'm doing the ethos leads, and I've done some game changer leads. All really good. I think ethos are really probably my favorite right now. And I am getting I don't really have a concrete answer for you, Jessica. I am getting as many leads as I feel like I need that week. And I kind of have a keep them coming mindset. And I know Erynne does too. I think that's one of the reasons I got frustrated with my mailer GMR because they tended to slow down a little bit. That's one of the reasons I pivoted a little earlier than most. Um, but I'm just getting as many as it takes. Sometimes that's 500 a week, sometimes it's 600 a week. It really just depends. Sometimes it's maybe a little bit less. So I guess you don't ever want to be like, oh, I've spent my whole commission. And I think the biggest thing is like when you get a commission, like saving that percentage to reinvest in your leads and remembering like whatever you're making, think of it like a normal business. Like you can't spend all your profits when you're have a cookie
Building
shop.
your
You know what
business.
I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to buy more ingredients to make more cookies. So, that's I don't know, Erynne. What are you spending on? Well, what were you spending? I know you've changed it up, but
Well, I'm the world's worst person. If people ask numbers for me or spending, for my personal mindset, I can't focus on that. It drains me the opposite way. So I couldn't tell you. I think it was 500 average a week I was spending. if that's what you're asking.
Okay.
But I just kept them coming. Like, I'm just not going to think about it. Why? Because I'm a numbers person with money. And if I over worry about that, and then I think about, I got to sell this, and that puts pressure, and then that puts the sell breath on my mouth. And I don't want that. I just want
Yep.
to focus on the task so I don't get in my head. So with Mallory saying, keep on coming, I know that if they're coming, I'm staying consistent. I'm reinvesting in my company. So it's all going to play out and it's all going to work out.
Yep. Oh, yeah. The commission breath is something that no one wants to have. So you don't want to walk
No,
into your meeting and like, just so desperate to make a sale, knowing like, hey, if I can help this person, great. If not, on to the next. Maddie, we mean $600, not 600 leads. That's a great question.
oh,
Um, how do you know what leads to buy and where? Just ask in the group, Ash. Anybody, I mean, there's the, a lot of it's just asking. Um, there's Game Changer, there's Ethos, those are on the Integrity Lead Center. There's all kinds. Just you can hit me or Nick up and we'll give you a little more direction. I'm going to be starting this week, and one thing I'm very nervous about is the initial home visit and deciding which application to fill out. Any words to help me with this? Who is your upline or who's your direct manager? So it would be Rachel, Erynne, Dan, Dave, Mike, Nick. Are those all the managers? Did I get everybody? When you're in the home, you call them. And if you need their number, just ask for it. But they will tell you, you don't have to know everything going into your first meeting.
I
I know.
no. The first thing, and or I know the basic thing to know, Cole, is whoever your main upline is the day before, give them your appointment schedule. Let them know when you'll be in the home. What I did
Mhm.
is I'll text and say in the home. So Mike would be standby for, all right, she'll probably be dialing. And you want to do your homework before going in home, meaning know, what to ask. So basically, build the rapport. We have a lot of great videos, but build the rapport, build the why they filled out the lead, gather that information along with health history information. So when you're doing that, you're saying, okay, now we have so many different programs and applications we can fill out. We need to see what's the best for you. And I'm going to call my senior underwriter, Mike, and we're just going to have a second opinion because I want to make sure we get the best. So I call Mike, I put it on speaker, I build up the client, age, history, why, what the why is, funeral expense versus cremation, and what their goals are. So basically, that's telling him everything about this woman. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. He's gonna be like, great, okay, Erynne, I feel like Great Western's perfect. You know what, Mike? I thought that too, but I didn't know that of Royal Neighbors. Thank you so much. Great Western is your answer. That's how you know. You've got to be in communication with your upline, of building the rapport with your upline of what's going to work when you do communicate. And that's how I did all my phone calls at the beginning with Mike. And that's how you learn. It's scary, but if you don't do it, you don't know, you don't learn. And don't doubt, like, if you're going to be on the phone about what they're thinking. They actually are so happy, whoever's on the phone, because they know you're taking the time to verify and find the best one. And it just shows you have more care and interest of let's find the best fit. So I hope that answers it. And then definitely when we get off this call, just get a great time to speak with your upline of those details and put that in action.
And have a backup too if your upline's not
Yes, a
available.
backup. But definitely talk to them the day before your appointments, because I would text them all my appointments so they know, because especially if they're helping other people, that you would have somebody when you're in the home.
Hmm.
Yep.
And use that use the app, the in-home sales app, and just keep calling. Just it's not going to be weird until you make it
It
weird or
feels
you feel
weird.
like it's
Yes.
weird. If you have to call your upline 3 times, I was in homes where I had to call Mark and then Nick and then Rachel, and then Mark again, and then Nick, and then, and none of them were answering. And then finally somebody would call me, and we just
Mhm.
sat there and
And just
we
say,
got
I
to be
mean,
friends.
yep. And then they're just so busy. This is what they do. So, they'll be back in touch with us. Just make light of the situation. And most importantly, know that you're there, you're helping them and reassure them that we're going to figure this out. We're not going to get in rush for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I guess there's something. So I guess I want to go back to the view. Depending on what you want to make of this, and when you see Rachel and Mike and Nick and everybody at the top, the way they got there is putting in the work and finding a balance of sacrifices and plugging in. So with the events, paying for a ticket, paying for the Airbnb, paying for the travel, that's still all return of your investment, putting into your business. So know that when you're going to these, you're learning so much, you're growing more with your team, you're growing as a person, you're learning different looks and views for what you can take home to make your business work that you would never know just from even our Monday night or Monday calls. So it's just being plugged in on top of it's fun. I mean, who doesn't like to travel? The trips are great on top of qualifying for an all expense trip. I mean, what else does it motivate you? That's the best part is, qualifying for the next trip. And then no matter like if you haven't attended the view or the next event, they're still doing the 100,000 points, right? For
Mm-hmm.
like your first event. I mean, that is huge. 100,000 qualifying points to go
Yeah.
towards Cabo. I'm like telling go. I mean, and then you have the others, and then what you part-time can do, going with your spouse or your best friend on a qualified trip to Cabo. And not even just the trip, it's all that you learn and gain as an individual per event. So I can't express that. Like if you want to succeed in this, you've got to be plugged in 100%.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. And
Mhm.
I think it's just like that going to the events too is just like a form of advocating for yourself and advocating for your own business and just fighting for your business. And that doesn't just mean going to the events, it means I need help. I'm going to call someone. I need help. I'm going to ask for help in the group. I don't know what to do, or just getting on these calls, like just advocating for yourself and for your business. You know, it's hard. Nick didn't, nor did Mike. Mike didn't sit around and call Erynne and check on Erynne to see what Erynne was doing. Like that was left up to Erynne. And if Erynne, or same thing with me. Like if I need help, I call Nick. If they're not going to call your upline or whoever, like they're not going to call and check on you. They're not going to call to make sure you're doing something. You have to do that yourself. And you know,
Taking
going to the events
responsibility.
and
Yeah.
yeah, going to the events and taking everything that you can, just squeezing as much juice as you can out of those, and being on the calls and just working your business, being engaged in the group and that type of thing. Like just it all just helps you learn and feed
Find
yourself
what
so that
works
you
for
can.
you.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I think we hit everything we were supposed to talk about. I don't know if we have
Yeah.
anything
Any
else.
more questions while we wrap this up? And please, if there's one event you don't even want to qualify for a trip, go to the view. Like
Mm-hmm.
I cannot wait. And you won't know until you experience it, but that's one thing you don't want to miss out.
I agree. I agree.
Um,
Well,
oh, I thought we,
um, anybody that had questions that maybe didn't get answered, or if you didn't like the answer we gave you, or you need more information, just reach out to me or Erynne. You can message either one of us on Telegram. You can use the Telegram group. That thing is awesome. Reach out. We are happy to help. Teamwork is for sure a big part of this team, which I love.
teamwork
So,
is definitely dream work. Yeah.
yes.
And then next week, look, I'm so excited about Devon and Mike being on the call next week. And you don't want to miss Devon with the king of IULs, and then happy late birthday, Devon. But that's one that is so good for especially young people like us that we need, if you haven't set up your own IUL and prepping for your retirement that's tax free, just take a look at that. But so many families, children, I set one up when I first started out for the kids with foresters. And then I didn't know what I was doing. I just put some insurance on them and I knew it'd grow cash. Now that I've been in a year, I met with a client that was putting money in for his daughter. And he was asking me, well, Erynne, I don't know if I want this growth to be when she's 30 for out of college. So when she can buy a house, like I'm just trying to say, I just want her protected. I want her to have cash. She's my only daughter. That put a perspective in me that I never thought of. So my idea is I'm starting a new one, an IUL with F&G for both Walker and Renly, where I want it for their retirement. I don't want them to touch it until and then they have an income at 65 because retirement's scary. Think about all the people we're meeting with. 90% of them only are living with on Social Security. I do not want my kids to have that income. So next week, learning about an IUL and just putting something for your children. So God forbid something happens to you, they're retired, no matter what their job income, they have life insurance, but most importantly, they have a tax-free income that's set that they can't outlive.
Yeah, it'll be really, really good. And just like learning how to build an illustration correctly, learning it can be overwhelming. So there'll be some good info on that call.
Good nuggets, yeah. And
Yes.
just knowing the value of what an IUL can do, the value of it. So,
Mm,
all
yeah.
right. Anything else? Because if not, happy Monday and finish your dials. Have a strong week. No excuses.
Commit.
Commit and consistency and yeah, dedication.
All right, y'all have a great day. Bye,
All right.
Erin.
Bye, y'all.